Due to copyright, I can't publish many audiobooks on YouTube. At our audiobook novel service, we offer access to over 300 full novels from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, Wuxia, and more, all in high-quality audio format. Each novel is available with a one-time payment only. No subscriptions, no monthly payment, and no ads. Payments via PayPal or Ko-fi. To browse the full list of available novels, message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out our full catalog on Discord. Chapter 250, Betrayal in the Blood. Donovan's signature technique was veil hand, yet the energy he had awakened and trained was anything but subtle. It was pure, unyielding force. When he first entered Frostvale Cavern, he felt nothing at all. What others called bone-chilling cold was nothing more than a light breeze to him. A simple release of his energy enveloping his body, and he could sleep there as if it were a warm bed. 3 days into his stay in Frostvale Cavern, his nephew, Liam Silverwood, came to visit. Liam brought fine wine and a hearty meal. Over dinner, he asked Liam about the 9th Division and the noble families. With a troubled expression, Liam told him they were still around. Donovan nodded without much reaction. It didn't really matter. This place was no different from the outside world anyway. After finishing the meal and drinks, he sent Liam away. On the 7th day, Liam returned with more food and drink. The 10th day, the 15th, the 30th. 3 months passed, and Liam continued to visit him at regular intervals until the last time when Liam arrived. They ate and drank as usual. Then Liam said, "The people from 9th Division and the noble families are finally gone." Hearing this, Donovan was pleased. Without hesitation, he followed Liam out of Frostvale Cavern. The moment he stepped outside, to his shock, he saw someone. Surprised, Donovan asked, "Luna? What are you doing here? Who let you into this restricted area?" Luna was also a younger member of the family, Lila's father's sister, the third born of that generation, making her Lila's aunt. She had long been married off, and unless it was a major event, married daughters weren't allowed to return to hidden territory, let alone step foot into a restricted zone. With a wide, almost forced smile, Luna beamed at him. "Uncle Donovan, I just wanted to see you. It's a big day since you're finally leaving Frostvale." "Oh." Donovan narrowed his eyes, skeptical. He didn't bother himself with family politics, but old age had made him quite sharp. He shot her a long, deep look before turning to leave. Then suddenly, an intense gust of wind rushed toward his face. Donovan instinctively dodged to the side. Ding! A steel needle grazed past his nose and embedded itself into the rock wall behind him. It sank 2 inches into the solid stone. His expression darkened. "Lachlan?" The moment he saw the needle fly past his face, he knew exactly who had attacked him. Fury flared in his eyes. "Eighth brother, what the hell do you think you're doing? You itching for a beating?" Lachlan Silverwood stepped out from behind a stone outcrop, chuckling. Now, Donovan. I am still your elder brother. Is that any way to address me? Cut the crap, Lachlan. Get lost before I break your face." Donovan had never gotten along with his 8th brother, even as children. Even their energies were completely opposite. One was pure, blazing strength, while the other was dark and elusive. Lachlan's smirk widened. "Oh? Beat me? Donovan, I'm afraid you won't be able to do that today." Before his words had even faded, he lunged forward, palm striking straight at Donovan's chest. Donovan frowned. Something was off. Usually, Lachlan avoided him like the plague, but today was different. Something wasn't right. Within their generation, only 3 of them were still alive. The eldest, Lucian Silverwood, was Lila's grandfather and still the head of the family. The rest of their brothers had long since died. Facing Lachlan's incoming strike, Donovan didn't even flinch. Lachlan was lazy and unfocused. Despite his natural talent, he never trained properly. His actual combat skills were garbage at best. Scoffing, Donovan clasped one hand behind his back and casually raised the other. Boom. Something completely unexpected happened. Thud. 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 Donovan staggered backward over 10 steps, his eyes filled with disbelief. What? He couldn't believe it. When did Lachlan become this strong? Lachlan, seeing his reaction, smirked, crossing his arms as he looked at him. "Donovan, you're too weak, just like that old man." Donovan froze. There was no need to ask who he meant. The old man was their eldest brother, Lucian Silverwood, the current family head. Lucian's strength was beyond question. Donovan knew this better than anyone. But now he was hearing from Lachlan's own mouth that Lucian was weak? Something was wrong. Donovan steadied his breath, prepared to unleash his energy and strike again, but suddenly blood gushed from his mouth. "Ha ha!" Lachlan burst into laughter at the sight. "How does it feel? The blood-fire venom isn't easy to deal with, is it? I'd advise you not to circulate your energy. The more you do, the faster it'll consume you. You have no idea how hard it was to find something that could actually kill you. That overwhelming energy of yours, it's damn near immune to all toxins. But you never expected that something worth a fortune, something as rare as the sunfire root, would become your greatest weakness, did you? Combined with your energy, it transforms into blood-fire venom." Donovan stared at his once timid, spineless brother, now standing before him, arrogant and unrestrained. Rage surged through him, and another mouthful of blood spilled from his lips. Clutching his chest, he wiped the blood from his mouth before turning his gaze to Liam, who stood quietly off to the side. "You were the one who poisoned me?" Liam's eyes flickered slightly. In a calm voice, he replied, Uncle Donovan, I only meant to bring you some supplements. Besides, it was the Patriarch himself who gave me permission to enter the restricted area. Patriarch? Donovan was stunned. Lachlan chuckled darkly. Oh, you know, our dear eldest brother. But he's already gone ahead of you to meet the ancestors. Buzz, Donovan's mind went blank. Impossible. His big brother, Lucian, the head of the family, was dead? How did he die? The answer was already clear in Donovan's heart, yet he still asked. Luna spoke next, her tone casual. No need to ask. You can go ask him yourself. Lachlan, stop wasting time. The longer we wait, the more things can go wrong. She held a long, black needle over 20 centimeters in length. Donovan's eyes darkened. You even took the soul-locking needle from the ancestral hall? His voice trembled, not in fear, but in anger. You people are vicious. You're not just trying to kill me, you want me to be your little puppet in death too. Dream on. Donovan knew this was the end for him. But if they thought he would let them use him, they were dead wrong. A surge of energy erupted from within him, his lifeblood condensed rapidly. In an instant, his hair and beard turned white, his skin shriveled, and his body withered. Then, too, a golden orb shot out of his mouth and vanished into Frostvale Cavern. His vision blurred and his body slowly collapsed. Donovan. Lachlan's face twisted in horror. This wasn't supposed to happen. He had spent years coveting Donovan's energy, hoping to steal it for himself. Now it was gone. In desperation, Lachlan roared, Liam, get inside and retrieve his essence pearl. Without hesitation, Liam nodded and rushed into Frostvale Cavern. Luna, standing over Donovan's frail body, twirled the black needle in her fingers. She smirked and spoke slowly. Uncle Donovan, stop struggling. You're not a soul wielder. You don't have the power to resist. Even if you die here, your soul won't fade so quickly. That's why we have the soul-locking needle, it'll keep you in place. By now, Donovan was on the brink of death, unable to speak. Luna chuckled coldly. You should have just accepted it. Even the family head was turned into a vessel. What's the point of struggling? With that, she drove the soul-locking needle straight into Donovan's forehead. Only an inch of the needle remained visible on the surface, its tip vibrating violently. Chapter 251, Bound by the Past. As Donovan recounted his memories, Ethan finally understood. So, he was a casualty of family power struggles. And shockingly, so was Lila's grandfather. That means the family head position should have fallen to Lachlan Silverwood, right? So why did Lila's father inherit it instead? Ethan asked, voicing his confusion. Donovan shook his head. The Silverwood family doesn't allow same-generation successions. Ethan nodded in understanding. Then it should have gone to Liam Silverwood. After all, he helped your 8th brother. Donovan shook his head again. Impossible. Liam isn't a direct descendant of the family head. He never had a chance. Only the family head's direct bloodline can inherit after his passing. Ethan frowned. But if Lachlan was ruthless enough to kill both you and the previous generation family head, couldn't he have just changed the rule? At those words, Donovan shot him a sharp glare. Are you the reincarnation of a why do things work this way? I already said it's not possible. Some things simply can't be changed by human hands. That's also why they locked me in here. Saying this, he turned toward the statue behind him. I suppose they needed my soul to suppress its power. Ethan was baffled. But Donovan clearly wasn't interested in explaining further. Seeing his reaction, Ethan figured the statue and even the Patriarch's inheritance was a deep family secret. Does your 8th brother have children? Donovan shook his head. Like me, he never married or had kids. Ethan snorted with laughter. What the hell are you laughing at, kid? But fine, I owe you one this time. If not for you, I'd still be trapped in that illusion. It should be time for the decennial gathering, right? Go find an expert in barrier magic among the guests and bring them here to take a look. Right now, I can only stand up and sit down. I feel like I'm trapped in some kind of magic formation. To prove his point, Donovan stood and stretched his hand forward, only for an invisible wall to stop him. Well, damn. That's crazy. But wait, how did your stone get through? Ethan had barely finished his sentence when Donovan casually flicked a pebble, catching it effortlessly as it phased through the barrier. Then, with a lazy flick of his wrist, whiz. The pebble shot out completely unaffected by the invisible boundary. Wait here. I know someone who's good with magic formations. I'll bring him over. With that, Ethan turned to leave. After a few steps, he hesitated and glanced back. Oh, and when I come back, please, for the love of God, stop throwing stones everywhere. Donovan rolled his eyes. Just go already. Soon enough, Ethan returned with Ryan, who immediately started circling Donovan like a vulture. A full hour passed and Ryan was still pacing, inspecting, and muttering to himself. Finally, Donovan lost his patience. His brows furrowed and he growled, Kid, are you a fucking donkey? What the hell are you plowing a damn field around me? Just get me the hell out of here. Ryan blinked, confused. Weren't you asking me to break the formation? Yeah. So break it and get me out. Ryan glanced between Donovan and Ethan, then asked, wait, do you want him out, or do you want the formation broken? Ethan's face twisted in confusion. Is there a difference? Of course there is. If he just wanted out, he could have said so. How was I supposed to know that's what he meant? You only said break the formation, you never said he had to come out right now. Ryan shrugged, looking completely innocent. Wait. Are you saying you can get me out without breaking the formation? Donovan's brows furrowed. Yep. And I can even leave a fake version of you inside. Both Ethan and Donovan's eyes lit up at that. Seeing their expressions, Ryan smirked and got to work. From a worn-out cloth pouch, he pulled out a runic parchment and a dark, unidentifiable slab of wood. He sat on the ground, taking out a small carving knife. Ethan and Donovan watched in silence as he began engraving. The first cut landed, and immediately a drop of blood seeped from the wood. Donovan's eyes widened. Millennium Bloodwood? Ryan remained focused, ignoring the outburst. Ethan had no idea what Millennium Bloodwood was, but judging by Donovan's reaction, it had to be something insane, otherwise this old man wouldn't be so shocked. Half an hour later, Ryan finished the first carving, then without hesitation he pulled out another identical slab and started on a second one. This time, the process was significantly faster. Kid, I owe you a big one for this. Donovan gave Ryan a long, serious look. Ryan didn't even glance up. Instead, he stared at the statue standing nearby and asked, your soul was bound here to suppress something, wasn't it? Donovan silently nodded. He hesitated for a moment, then said nothing more. Ethan, however, found it strange. What's with the statue? Wasn't it just a pompous old dude posing dramatically? Why was it suddenly giving off mysterious vibes? He frowned and scanned the statue with his senses, but nothing seemed off. Ryan, still working, finally spoke again. This formation is a 1A seal, it only blocks spirit entities from leaving. I can get you out, but I can't sever your connection to it. He pointed at the statue. I know. Donovan didn't seem fazed. Ethan, however, wasn't satisfied. You know? Then how do we completely free you? Despite everything, Donovan was still someone Ethan trusted. Sure, he was technically responsible for Lila going missing all those years ago, but if not for that, Ethan and Lila never would have met. Donovan lowered his head, lost in thought. After a long silence, he finally sighed and looked up. His eyes flickered with an unknown emotion. It doesn't matter anymore. The Silverwood family today is nothing like it used to be. Sigh. That statue isn't just a symbol. It's the core of this entire hidden territory. It's also the key to the Silverwood family's defensive barrier. And most importantly, the patriarch's inheritance is tied to it. Without its recognition, no one can truly control this place. At those words, Ethan finally understood. No wonder Donovan had said the family head position couldn't simply be taken by force. So that was their goal all along, to extract Donovan's spirit and use it to manipulate whatever was inside the statue. But where did this willpower inside the statue come from? And what exactly were they planning to do at the decennial gathering? By all logic, Donovan should have died at the last gathering 10 years ago. Yet, they had done nothing back then. Even back then, Dr. Aldrich and Leroy had attended. Ethan's thoughts raced. The statue. Hey everyone, just wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of you who's been reading, commenting, and supporting this story. I'll be taking a short break to recharge and sort out a few things, but don't worry, I'll be back soon, and when I return, updates will be more consistent like they used to be. Thanks for sticking with me. Chapter 252, Unraveling the Seal? A sudden thought struck Ethan, sending a chill down his spine. He turned to Donovan and asked, are you absolutely sure you don't have children? Donovan blinked in confusion. Kid, I never even got married. Where the hell would a child come from? Don't go around tarnishing my reputation. You want me to come out and beat your ass? Heh. Ethan narrowed his eyes, watching the old man's over-the-top reaction. With a knowing tone, he said, you know, not being married doesn't necessarily mean. Shut the hell up. Donovan cut him off, his face turning red. The more Ethan spoke, the more agitated Donovan became. Even his eyes started darting around suspiciously. Wait, could this old man actually have a secret kid somewhere? Ryan didn't seem to care about their exchange. Holding the engraved wooden slab, he casually tossed it into the barrier. Get ready, I'm setting you free. Wait. Donovan suddenly shouted, but it was too late. The wooden slab was already airborne. Whooshy. As soon as it landed, a thick red mist burst forth, spreading rapidly within the barrier. Ryan froze. Ethan? The formation had already begun activating, but Donovan had called for a stop at the last moment. What now? Ryan held the second slab in his hands, hesitating, unsure whether to continue. He looked at Ethan, silently waiting for his decision. Ethan hesitated for a moment before asking, can we stop it now? Ryan didn't even have to answer, the helpless look on his face said it all. A second later, he shook his head. No chance. Then keep going. Ethan clenched his jaw. Ryan nodded, lowering his gaze. He carefully set the second slab onto the ground. Without using any energy or special abilities, he formed intricate hand gestures, chanting softly in a language Ethan couldn't understand. His hands moved with increasing speed, flowing seamlessly from one gesture to another. Almost like a mage casting a spell in ethereal. This was Ethan's first time witnessing Ryan perform a ritual like this. Through his soul sense, he observed an indescribable flow of energy emerging out of nowhere with each movement of Ryan's hands. It wove through the air, thread by thread, gathering at his fingertips. But it wasn't coming from Ryan. Ethan knew Ryan was just an ordinary person with no supernatural powers or energy of his own. Yet somehow, this ancient craft, this ritualistic magic, allowed him to wield power on par with those who had supernatural abilities. Minutes passed. Ryan's hand movements grew faster and faster. By the end, to Ethan's soul sense, his fingers were nothing but a blur, 10 phantom-like extensions dancing through the air. Open. Ryan's hands suddenly locked together in an unnatural twist and he pressed his fingertips onto the engraved Millennium Bloodwood slab. Sizzle. Like the first slab, this one also released a mist, but instead of deep crimson, this time it was a milky white. Connect. The red and white mist suddenly froze, hanging eerily in the air. Inside the formation, the blood-red mist surged violently, churning like a storm. It was impossible to see what was happening within. Even scanning with spell sense revealed nothing. As if the entire formation had vanished from this space entirely. From the moment the ritual began, Donovan's voice had gone completely silent. Ethan had no idea what was happening inside. Seconds passed. The storm of mist slowly began to settle, returning to complete stillness. Out! Ryan shifted his hand seals and whoosh! A thin white flame flickered up from the outer slab. Ryan reached out, pinched the flame between his fingers, and pulled hard. The flame grew larger as he pulled, stretching unnaturally like some kind of living thread. Ethan, give me a hand. Ryan called out, clearly struggling. Ethan immediately grabbed a handful of the flickering flame and yanked. Pop! A sound like a cork being pulled from a bottle echoed through the training grounds. God damn it, that hurts. Donovan's voice boomed from within the mist. It was only then that Ethan realized what he had grabbed. It wasn't a flame at all, it was a fistful of Donovan's hair. And his current state was absolutely ridiculous. That pop from earlier was actually the sound of Donovan's head squeezing out of the tiny opening in the runic slab. His entire head, far larger than the opening itself, was sticking out of the slab in the most undignified way possible. Face red with anger, he glared up at Ethan and Ryan, barking. You little brats. You made me crawl through a damn hole, fine. But could you not have made a bigger one? How the hell is anyone supposed to fit through this? Ryan raised an eyebrow. Aren't you demanding too much? You do realize how rare Millennium Bloodwood is, right? You should be thankful we even had these 2 slabs. Were you expecting a whole damn plank? Donovan grumbled under his breath, but he couldn't exactly argue with that logic. After a moment, he sighed. All right, fine, just hurry up and pull me out. Got it. Ryan grabbed another handful of his hair and yanked. Ow, damn it, watch the scalp. Ethan, feeling a bit bad, decided against pulling his hair. Instead, he grabbed Donovan's head with both hands and started pulling straight back. After a final hard tug, pop! Like an overgrown turnip, Donovan was finally freed from the slab. The 3 of them collapsed onto the ground, completely exhausted. Well, technically 2 people and 1 spirit. Donovan lay on the floor groaning in pain, acting as if he had just been tortured for hours. Ethan, still catching his breath, glanced at Ryan. Hey, do spirits even feel pain? Or is he just being dramatic? Ryan shrugged. No idea. With that, he gathered his supplies, formed a final hand gesture, and with a crack, both runic slabs shattered into dust. All right, we need to get moving. The sun's about to rise, and I'm shocked we haven't run into any Silverwood patrols yet. Do they not guard this place at night? Ryan stretched and turned to leave. Donovan scoffed. Guard what? There's a curfew in this place. No one leaves their homes at night. He dusted himself off before adding, honestly, you 2 are lucky it was me you ran into. If it had been the sentinels patrolling this place, you'd both be dead by now. Ryan paused, then raised an eyebrow. Sentinels? Ethan's expression also hardened. Wait, you mean there are other spirits roaming around? Donovan nodded. Anyone in the Silverwood family who wasn't a soul wielder got their souls extracted. Those extracted souls were then bound as sentinels to guard this place. At night, they're released to patrol. That's how they trapped me here. I was meant to be turned into one of them, but instead, they bound me to the statue. Hearing this, Ethan frowned. Wait, then last night? Donovan shook his head. No idea. By all logic, you should never have made it from the guest lodgings to the training grounds without encountering them. There are dozens of soul sentinels along that route and you didn't see a single one. Ethan and Ryan both shook their heads. Donovan's brows furrowed deeply. Something isn't right. Without hesitation, he turned toward the direction they had come from. Come on, let's check it out. As they walked, he muttered to himself. This makes no sense, it's not even time for them to retreat yet. Where the hell did they go? Ryan smirked. Maybe you're just that terrifying, old man. Scared them all off. Ethan, following behind, wasn't amused. Wait a minute. They extracted souls from anyone who wasn't a soul wielder? Then what the hell would they do to him if they found out he was one? A chill ran down his spine. Chapter 253, Change in the Rules. Forget about saving Lila, if Ethan wasn't careful, he wouldn't even make it out of this place alive. That was the brutal truth and it hung in the air like a curse. This place had always been the Silverwood family territory, yet Donovan still hadn't figured out the full situation. In the end, it was Ethan who broke the silence. Maybe your 8th brother needed those sentinel souls. He probably took them away. Donovan fell quiet. Then he turned to Ethan and said, during today's gathering, find a chance to sneak me into the forbidden grounds. Why don't you go yourself? I've got things to do, Ethan replied, completely uninterested in tagging along to some dangerous site. You just want to go find Lila, right? Once I get my essence pearl back, I'll help you look for her. Donovan saw straight through him and made a bold promise. He even made a gesture as if tapping his chest for emphasis. Ethan just gave him a skeptical side eye. This old man? Reliable? First, he lost Lila, then he got himself killed. Now he expected Ethan to trust his word? Never. You're strong, old man. Why drag me along? Ethan snorted. Didn't you just say that entering the forbidden grounds without the family head's permission gets you punished? I'd be walking straight into a death sentence. So you're really not going? Donovan narrowed his eyes. Ethan stiffened his neck. Not going. You little punk. Fine. Soul wielder, huh? Just you wait. With that, Donovan leapt out the window in a flash. Ethan blinked. Granduncle. He rushed outside, but the sun was just starting to rise and Donovan had already vanished. His heart pounded. How did Donovan figure out he was a soul wielder? For becoming stronger, especially as he reached level 45, his energy manipulation had increased by quite a lot, so practically it should have been impossible for anyone to detect his soul sense easily, but how? If Donovan could tell, could others? He wouldn't turn me in, would he? Maybe I should have gone with him. Made him owe me. Saved his ass, yeah, that would have been something. Ethan turned to head back in, only to run into Ryan. Ethan flinched. Had Ryan overheard Donovan? Didn't hear a thing, Ryan muttered, brushing past him. Ethan cracked a grin. This guy was still as quirky as ever. He trusted the 3 Chase siblings. Still, he grabbed Ryan by the arm and said, "Tell no one." Ryan nodded and walked away. Far away, about 100 meters out, hidden in the shadows, Donovan was still watching. So he really is a soul wielder. By now, morning had broken. Members of the Silverwood family were starting to gather at the training grounds. Strangely, the red mist-filled formation had disappeared. Donovan slipped through the crowd, heading straight for the mountain peak. Ethan and the Chase siblings got ready to head to the arena. No matter what else was going on, today's tournament had to be seen. They'd watch first, then try to sneak away mid-event to look for Lila. Flawed as the event might be, the turnout was impressive. By the time they arrived, the seats were nearly full. They found one, way off in the corner near the entrance. Ethan didn't mind. That kind of spot had always been his favorite back in school. Perfect for naps. It was 8:08 a.m. Boom. 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 A series of 8 thunderous cannon shots rang out. The sound was deafening. Ethan jolted at the first blast, slapping his hands over his ears. But the ringing still hit him like a truck. Even his vision blurred. What sort of nonsense is this? As the echoes faded, a woman in an over-the-top outfit strutted onto the stage. Ethan sighed. Showtime. Esteemed guests and fellow warriors of the supernatural world. She went on. And on. And on. 30 full minutes of speech that felt like she was reading a term paper. Eventually, someone in the crowd had enough. Who even is she? Jesus, does she ever shut up? Shoo. Quiet. That's Luna Silverwood, the family here's sister. The moment Ethan heard her name, his drowsiness vanished. So that was Luna. The woman who nearly got Donovan killed. A shameless attention seeker, clearly. That explained the non-stop babbling. All just to make people remember her. Big chest, small brain. She didn't look much of a threat. Once he confirmed her identity, Ethan leaned back and tried to catch some sleep. Ahem. Luna cleared her throat, her voice hoarse. No surprise. Half an hour of verbal diarrhea would do that to anyone. Finally, she wrapped it up. Now, I'll hand things over to our family steward and head instructor, Liam Silverwood. He'll go over the tournament rules. The rules were developed by the noble 8 lineages. Everything will be fair and transparent. She kept rambling. Then a calm voice interrupted her. Can I speak now? Liam, the stage is yours. It was Liam Silverwood. Though she hit it well, Luna clearly didn't appreciate being cut off. Her eyes flashed with a subtle irritation. But Ethan noticed it. Of course he did. She walked past him on her way down and his soul sense caught the flicker of resentment. He quickly redacted his soul sense as he had made a mental note not to use it carelessly again since last time Donovan had sensed it. It was better to play it safe. Liam waited until Luna had taken her seat on the high platform before speaking. As usual, this tournament will have 2 parts, the academic and the combat rounds. Points will be awarded for each. The one with the highest total wins. However, there's one key difference this year. He paused, letting anticipation build. Ethan rolled his eyes. Was this guy another show-off? Liam smiled faintly. In the past, only select guests invited by the Noble 8 were allowed to compete. This year, anyone under 30 who made it here today can join. And if you think you have what it takes to win, then by all means take the crown. The crowd erupted. Even Ethan perked up. He planned to fight his way into the top group by snagging a guest slot through the 9th division. But this changed things. Wait, is this for real? Yeah, no way. They always blocked outsiders before the quarterfinals. It was all rigged in the past, man. Liam looked over the crowd, calm and steady. I assure you. This decision was agreed upon by all 8 lineages. Chapter 254, Warrior and Refined Households. The moment he finished speaking, murmurs rippled through the crowd below the stage. Someone suddenly called out, why isn't the head of the Silverwood family here to preside over this gathering? The voice wasn't loud, but it carried unnaturally well, as if aided by some kind of strange technique. Whether intentional or not, everyone in the hall heard it clearly. The speaker didn't bother to hide his identity either. He stepped forward from the crowd, stopping directly before Liam at the edge of the stage. Liam's brow furrowed at the sight of the man, but he kept his composure. Calmly, he said, Ambrose Silverwood is feeling unwell today and is unable to preside over this gathering. Oh? Is that so? Ambrose and I go way back. We were comrades through life and death in our youth, the man said with an exaggerated tone. As an old friend, I think it's only right I visit this unwell family head of yours. Why don't you, steward, send someone to lead me there? Each word dripped with sarcasm. The man bit hard on the words unwell and steward, his tone full of mockery and provocation. Sure enough, Liam paused, his expression growing cold. But he kept his cool and glanced toward the stage. Someone sitting above gave a faint nod of approval. Ethan followed the exchange with interest. That man, he guessed, had to be Lachlan Silverwood, Donovan's elder brother, one of the last surviving members of the Silverwoods' previous generation. Ethan had been wondering earlier whether Lachlan would show. It didn't make sense for him to miss a gathering like this. Now he was sure. The man looked pale as a ghost, sickly, almost cadaverous. A complete contrast to Donovan. Donovan, even in spirit form, carried a commanding presence, a fierce vitality. Perhaps it stemmed from his awakened energy, but more likely, Ethan figured it was a reflection of inner strength. By contrast, Lachlan gave off the vibe of a shrewd and calculating snake. As Ethan ran through these thoughts, Liam finally turned back and said, Master Redgrave, if you'll wait just a moment, I'll have someone escort you to the family head. So that's Talon Redgrave, the head of the Crimson Talon Order, a chubby man beside Ethan whispered. No wonder he's so bold. Ethan tilted his head. The order's named after him? Is he the founder? The man chuckled. You must be new around here. Crimson Talon's got a tradition, the man muttered. Whoever takes charge must take the name Talon. Doesn't matter what their birth name was? The surname's the only thing that stays. Ah, I see. Ethan nodded, offering a word of thanks. Just then, more figures stepped out from the crowd. Hold it, one of them said. We'll accompany Master Redgrave. Liam turned again, seeking guidance from the stage. This time, Lachlan's gaze turned even frostier. He slowly stood up. My nephew's condition isn't suited for visitors, he said in a low voice. If Master Redgrave wishes to go alone, we'll make arrangements immediately. But the rest of you, there's no need to trouble him further. Please return to your seats. Today's gathering is for the younger generation, he added. We old-timers should just enjoy the show. Then he turned to the leader of the Langford family camp. Master Langford, I leave the first round of the academics duel to you. With honor, the man replied, rising to bow respectfully. The crowd resumed murmuring in hushed voices. Ethan glanced at the older man, Talon Redgrave, and thought, you're lucky those others tried to tag along. Otherwise, you might have just walked into a trap. Talon seemed to understand the same thing. Though clearly displeased, he returned quietly to his seat. Lachlan outranked even the current family head as a member of the old generation. His words carried weight. And truthfully, everyone here knew more than they let on. These men were all longtime allies of Ambrose Silverwood, Lila's father. On stage, Liam waited for the crowd to settle. Once things were calm again, William Langford, the head of the Langford family, stepped forward and addressed the assembly. I'm sure most of you have never attended an assembly like this, so I'll explain the rules in detail. He began outlining the format of the upcoming scholarly duel. It will be conducted as a literary competition. Every participant will receive a platinum card custom-made by the Silverwood family. The grounds have already been prepared at the family estate, divided into 4 zones. Each zone will be overseen by one of the refined 4 households. Ethan leaned over to his neighbor. Who are the refined 4? The man looked at him like he'd grown an extra head. Over their brief chats, he'd already concluded Ethan was a total outsider. Bro, you came to a gathering of the 8 noble families and don't even know the refined 4? Ethan scratched his head. I've never heard of them. The guy stared at him. Then at least you know who the 8 noble houses are? Sure, Ethan answered. There's the Silverwoods and the Langfords. All right then, the man grinned, sensing an opportunity. If you know so well, tell me the other 6. Go ahead, besides Silverwood and Langford. Ethan got the hint. This guy thought he was clueless and wanted to test him. But Ethan had no shame. He'd just ask. Well, I know there's the House of Zane, he said confidently. The Zane family? The man blinked. Oh, you mean the ones leading the Southern Dominion? They're under the Hargraves. Technically, the Zane family isn't one of the 8. It's the Hargrave family that holds the seat. Though lately, the Zanes have been calling the shots, so fair enough. Ethan was thoroughly confused. Hargrave family? Zane family? What? He decided to play along. You really know your stuff. Mind sharing some wisdom? That lit the guy up. He sat up straighter, puffing with pride. Of course, of course. But hey, let's introduce ourselves properly first. Just call me Markham. What's your name anyway? Ethan's face twitched. Markham? The name gave off some strong fantasy vibes. But he forced a straight face. All right, Markham. I'm Ethan. Got it, Ethan. So, check this out. Markham launched into a detailed breakdown. The 8 noble lineages were divided into 2 groups, the warrior families and the refined families. The warrior families were Silverwood family based in Ashwick, Langford family, Terracotta City, Hargrave Zane Coalition, Southern Frontier, Whitmore family, Northern Stronghold. The refined were Quinn family, masters of strategy, Blackwell family, masters of visual arts, Wynne family, keepers of literature, Hargrove family, scholars of music and poetry. Together, these 8 made up the noble lineages. Markham went on to emphasize that the Hargrave family was unique. Unlike the others, their roots lay in ancient traditions, descendants of 4 legendary noble bloodlines, the Zanes, the Axels, the Vailmonts, and the Graysons. The Zanes had risen to prominence in recent years, essentially becoming the visible face of the Hargrave family. As for the other noble bloodlines, their descendants might still be alive, hidden away in remote lands or blending in with society. Chapter 255, Dragon Summoner's Star. And finally, there's the lineage of Grandmaster Satharin. Rumor has it that after him, nothing was passed down. But even so, he was still the founder of the Marist Order, and no one can deny that. Even now, Markham continued, the Zane family's ancestral hall still has monuments dedicated to him. Ethan cut in. Hold up, how do you even know that? Markham hesitated, glancing around before leaning in and whispering in Ethan's ear. For real? Ethan blinked. No way, seriously? Then his eyes narrowed. Wait a second. You're from the Whitmore family, aren't you? Markham stiffened. How'd you know? Just a lucky guess, honestly. You just said the Zanes invited your grandaunt over, which means you have to be from one of the noble 8. Who else talks like that? Normal people don't say invited in that kind of way. Fair enough, Markham muttered, still thoughtful. And it makes sense, right? Ethan continued. Only someone on the same level as a main noble family would get an invite like that. He crossed his arms, looking smug. The Zanes, like you said, are just an offshoot of the Hargraves. They can't compare to a main family like the Whitmores. So for someone from the Whitmores, the word invite just fits. Am I right, Markham? That final bit of flattery made Markham beam. He clapped Ethan on the back and laughed. Haha. Ethan, you flatter me too much. The two stood there, exchanging compliments like a couple of old men bonding over drinks at a tavern. Then whoosh. The atmosphere shifted. The people around Ethan suddenly stood up all at once. Some rolled up their sleeves. Others cracked their knuckles. A few older ones started giving impassioned pep talks as if they were about to send their troops into battle. Ethan blinked. What's happening? Are we about to throw down in a street fight or something? Evelyn, who had been watching Ethan and Markham's mutual ego-stroking with growing impatience, rolled her eyes. Seriously? You two were so busy patting each other on the back that you didn't even hear the rules? Serves you right. Ethan looked up just in time to realize that the Langford family head was no longer on stage. The rules must have already been explained. Groups were forming now, small clusters of people all under 30, moving toward the Silverwood estate. Still lost, Ethan grabbed Evelyn's arm. Hey, help me out here. What are the rules? Yeah, come on, tell us. Markham added. Evelyn didn't refuse. She just smiled sweetly and subtly wiggled her fingers, her meaning crystal clear. Markham hesitated, then fished into his pocket and pulled out a small, 5-pointed star made of folded foil. Here. Evelyn smacked his hand away. What is this? A participation trophy? I said cash. Markham stood there, stunned, like she had just slapped the dignity out of him. Ethan opened his mouth to say something, but before he could, Ryan stepped out from behind Evelyn. Without hesitation, he snatched the foil star right out of Markham's hand like it was some kind of sacred artifact. Bro, don't take it personally. She's just cranky. I'll explain the rules for you. And I'll be taking this, a star as payment. Evelyn shot him a glare. Are you serious, Ryan? Ryan glanced back, grinning. Heh. Then, with his new treasure in hand, he dragged Markham away, chatting like they'd been lifelong friends. Evelyn stood there, fuming. She clenched her fists and grabbed her older brother Leroy by the sleeve. Big bro. Ryan's being a jerk again. Leroy barely spared her a glance. Let it go. Do you even know what that star was? That got Ethan's attention. He beat Evelyn to the question. What was it? Leroy let out a small chuckle. It's the focus for the Whitmore family's dragon invocation technique. Ethan frowned. The what now? It's a one-time use magic medium. Just channel enough energy into it, recite the 9-word incantation, and boom, you summon a real dragon to fight for you. Ethan stared at him. A real dragon? Leroy nodded. The stronger your energy, the stronger the dragon. Ethan slowly turned to where Ryan and Markham had disappeared. And Ryan just walked off with that thing? Leroy shrugged. Pretty much. Evelyn's jaw dropped. Her heart twisted with immediate remorse. She had just waved off something priceless like it was nothing. Meanwhile, Ethan's eyes were darting with thought. That Markham guy's kind of a jackpot. If he could get his hands on a whole jar of those stars, couldn't he summon an entire dragon army in a pinch? Yeah. He definitely needed to figure out a way to squeeze a few more out of him. As the younger participants moved ahead, those over the age limit stayed behind, looking like they just missed out on a winning lottery ticket. They could only enter once the competitors were inside as spectators. Of course, not everyone heading toward the Silverwood estate had good intentions. Plenty of shady types were trying to sneak in unnoticed. But the moment they reached the gates, an advanced scanner swept over them, reading their bone age. A few unlucky souls got caught. No arguments. No second chances. Just one swift clean crack. Each of them had their arm bone broken by the Silverwood guards. Ethan winced. Yikes, these Silverwoods don't mess around. If these guys ever proctored an exam, they'd probably twist off the head of anyone caught cheating. On the way there, Ethan had finally squeezed the tournament rules out of Evelyn. Every participant would receive a card from the Silverwood staff. That card was their betting token. They could challenge someone by offering it as a wager, winner takes all. This dueling wasn't about combat. The battles were fought through music, strategy, calligraphy, or painting. Judges from the 4 refined families would rate their skill levels fairly. Each match would last 3 hours. At the sound of fireworks, the round would end and the top 50 players with the most cards would advance. The more you won, the higher you could bet next round. Win big? Bet bigger. Now at the gate, Ethan received his first card from a Silverwood staff member. He expected paper, instead it was metal beautifully crafted with intricate lines etched deep into its surface. The front had a poem engraved on it. River pale, autumn deep, tinted green with indigo ink. Stone scattered falls echo, clear waters in sync. Dustless bottom seen, bright sands gleam with light. Golden rays stirring pearl and shell in flight. Southwind sighs through mountain chill and pine. Reflection split in mirrored lines. Bring me wine and set me afloat. A cold carp's flesh in slivers cut fine. Ethan tilted his head. That poem. I swear I saw it in a textbook once. Unfortunately, it had long since been processed and flushed from his brain, somewhere between a meal and a nap. Not that it mattered. He wasn't really planning to compete. He was just here to soup around. Besides, music, strategy, calligraphy, painting? He couldn't do any of that crap. Evelyn, on the other hand, looked way too excited. Even Ryan and Leroy had a spark in their eyes. For a split second, Ethan wondered, wait, are these 3 secretly intellectual prodigies? Then, before he could even process the thought, they vanished into the music section at lightspeed. Hey, where the hell are you going? Ethan called after them. Too late. They were gone. Now he really needed to find out what was going on. Chapter 256, The Art of War. All participants entered the Silverwood family's estate. William Langford, head of the Langford family, appeared at the center of the courtyard. I've just received word, he announced, that the top 50 performers in the academic trials will have the honor of being watched by the daughter of the Silverwood family head during the final ranking matches. A wave of murmurs erupted through the crowd. Ethan's mind reeled, his emotions surging. Lila. It's been so long. Looks like he had to make it into the top 50 now. Only problem? He suddenly realized the truth. Music, strategy, literature, art in general, he was useless at all of them. How the hell was he supposed to crack the top 50? He'd only come to watch, but now his competitive spirit was lit. Ethan glanced at Evelyn beside him. Hey, Evelyn, you good at any of this stuff? She shrugged shamelessly. Me? Why would I bother? I'm just here for the show. Ethan sighed, eyeing the bustling courtyard. I don't get it. Why the hell are we doing academic trials when we came here to fight? Underestimating scholars is a quick way to get yourself killed, kid. Let the refined families hear you say that, and you're done. A sharp-featured young man sidled up to them. He was average height, maybe 5'9", with a scholarly air, but his gaze carried an edge. You're not from one of the refined families, are you? Ethan asked warily. If I were, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Bam. A burly man collapsed beside a game board, lifeless. Seated across from him was a slender man, his expression icy. Disrespect the game, he said coldly, and you die. An attendant handed him 2 cards, his winnings from the match. That's Bobby, from the Blackwell family. Someone whispered. Ethan stiffened. He just killed a guy? So the refined families weren't just about books and paintings after all. Ethan hadn't seen Bobby strike, but the dead man had clearly been taken out in one hit. All because he disrespected the game. See? The scholarly man smirked. The refined families may specialize in arts, but they've mastered combat through them. The Langfords wield sound waves. The Blackwells use strategy as battle formations. The Winds? They've unlocked sword mastery through calligraphy. And the Hargroves specialize in sealing techniques. He spoke like a lecturer, clearly aiming his words at Ethan. Ethan didn't dislike the guy, but he wasn't thrilled either, mostly because of the faint but unmistakable body odor clinging to him. Looks sharp, smells rough. Ethan gave him a curt nod, then grabbed Evelyn's sleeve to leave. The man chuckled. Ethan, already moving on from Lila? She's barely been gone. What would she think? His voice was quiet, but every word struck Ethan like a hammer. Ethan spun around. Who the hell are you? He demanded. You know Lila? What's more, this guy actually knew about his relationship with Lila. So how were they connected? Ethan trusted what he had with Lila completely. But still, a guy with body odor? Because he knew Lila. And Lila had a thing about cleanliness. Me? I'm Dominic. Dominic Zane. The man gave Ethan a long look, then flicked his gaze to where he was holding Evelyn's sleeve. His eyes lingered on her for a second before he turned and walked away, leaving behind a narrow, stiff-backed silhouette. And in that moment, Ethan caught something dangerous in his expression, a flash of killing intent. Directed at Evelyn. Holy hell, that was creepy, Evelyn muttered, rubbing her arms. What was that look for? I've never even met him. Ethan hadn't used his soul sense here, too risky, but he didn't need to. The shift had been obvious. The moment Dominic saw him tug Evelyn's sleeve, his demeanor had turned lethal. Seriously? I'm just pulling her away, not holding her damn hand. Since when is that your business? And even if he were holding her hand, what the hell did it matter to him? Then it hit him. What did he say his name was? Ethan asked sharply. Dominic Zane. Ethan's blood ran cold. That Dominic Zane? The one who'd just broken through to the energy refinement stage? The same bastard who'd had his eyes on Lila? Ethan's fingers twitched. A slow, icy rage coiled in his chest, so palpable that Evelyn shivered beside him. Dominic's retreating figure disappeared into the crowd. Ethan forced himself to turn away. Let's check out the strategy games, he said, voice tight. Evelyn didn't argue, trailing silently behind him. The strategy section was packed, buzzing like a marketplace. Ethan frowned. How the hell do players concentrate in this noise? But as he got closer, he noticed each game table had 3 people, 2 players and a referee from the Blackwell family. And around them, a faint golden barrier, likely a sound-dampening formation. Strangely, while outside noise didn't penetrate, every word inside the barrier could be heard clearly. Then, a familiar voice hissed behind him. Ethan. Pissed. Ethan. He turned to see Markham lurking like a greasy shadow. What? Ethan snapped. Markham glanced at Evelyn, then dragged Ethan aside. Want to make some quick cash? Evelyn stomped over, scowling. Ugh, you again. I already told you we don't want your stupid artifact, get over it. Ethan knew exactly what Markham meant by quick cash. But before he could ask, Evelyn had already derailed things. He shot her a warning look and she huffed but shut up. All right, Markham, Ethan said lowly. What's the play? Markham grinned. We set up a side hustle. Skim some extra cards off the competition. Ethan blinked. And the tournament organizers just let that happen? Markham winked. Leave that to me. Question is, how much you willing to invest? Ah. So that was the game. Markham wasn't looking for a partner, he wanted a bankroll. Dude had zero interest in the top 50, he was here to scam his way to a payday. But how did he know Ethan needed cards to climb the ranks? As if reading his mind, Markham leaned in. Ryan told me about your situation. Pay up and I'll make sure you get what you need. Ethan's jaw tightened. Name your price. Markham held up 2 fingers. Ethan's eye twitched. This greedy bastard. Chapter 257, High Stakes. Markham caught Ethan's expression and grinned even wider. Ethan, my man, this price is golden, guaranteed top 50, maybe even top 10. Deal. Ethan gritted his teeth. 2 million it is. Just get me into the top 50. Markham choked. T2 million? Cough, yeah. On my honor as a Whitmore man, consider it done. His eyes nearly bulged out of his skull as he yanked back his outstretched fingers, originally meant to signal 200,000, and thumped his chest like a drum. Ethan blinked. Wait. His thoughts spun. 2 million. That wasn't pocket change, not even by renegade standards. Had he really let desperation override basic common sense? The number echoed in his head like a bad reverb. But then again, what was money compared to what he was chasing? Lila's face shimmered in his memory. If this gamble brought him even one step closer to her, it would be worth every credit. Too late now. 2 million was nothing if it meant seeing Lila again. Hell, he drained the Renegade Alliance and Trusty 007's entire inventory for that. True to his word, Markham sprang into action like a man with a vendetta against silence and bureaucracy. He didn't ask for signatures or confirmations, he moved with the swagger of someone who'd been gaming systems long before rules were a thing. With long, striding steps, he carved a path through the outer rim of the strategy section, his coat flaring behind him like a cape. Then, with a dramatic flourish, he produced a full-sized betting table from seemingly nowhere, one sharp twist of the wrist and it slammed into place with an echoing thud that silenced a dozen nearby conversations. Ethan stiffened. Spatial storage? That's a thing outside the game? The supernatural world never stopped throwing curveballs. The sudden appearance of the table drew murmurs from all around. Curious onlookers drifted closer, clustering like moths to flame. Step right up, folks. Don't miss your chance. Markham's voice boomed like thunder, cutting through the rising din of the crowd. He vaulted onto the table with startling agility, landing with the poise of a born performer. Arms wide, he spun once for dramatic effect. Fair odds, instant payouts. Turn your bicycle into a damn motorcycle. Put your money where your faith is and let destiny deal the cards. The crowd erupted. Some gawked in stunned silence. Others shoved forward, eyes gleaming. A few clueless participants, Ethan's spiritual siblings in zero artistic flair, smacked their foreheads. Why didn't I think of that? Still, questions hung in the air. Was this even allowed? Most opted to watch first, bet later. Within minutes, Markham's table had stolen the spotlight, drawing more spectators than the actual matches. Standing center stage, Markham pointed dramatically at the nearest strategy table where 2 players had just taken their seats. Both radiated the quiet intensity of masters. They closed their eyes, centering themselves in silent focus before the match. One of them was Bobby. The same guy who'd killed a man over a game earlier. Who names themselves Bobby when you're a strategy master? Ethan thought. That's like a swordsman naming himself Blunt. Markham jabbed a finger toward the duo. First bets on this match. Everyone knows Bobby, no intro needed. As for his opponent. He squinted. No clue. The crowd groaned. Markham powered on, undeterred. Who cares? Anyone bold enough to face a grandmaster of strategy must be someone. Place your bets now, time's ticking. Money flowed in. Most bets piled onto Bobby, but a few gamblers threw chips at the unknown challenger. The crowd teemed with hopefuls clutching their single tournament cards. Win here and they'd strike gold. Lose and they were out. At first, the odds were simple, 1:1. But as more money stacked on Bobby, the ratio swung 0.1 to 10. Markham, to his credit, handled it like a pro. One glance at the pool and he recalculated the odds without missing a beat. Then came the skeptics. If Bobby wins, how the hell are you splitting the cards? Cutting them into pieces? Someone shouted. Yeah, this smells like a scam. Murmurs of suspicion rippled outward. Markham's answer? He slammed a duffel bag onto the table and dumped out a mountain of cash, enough to make Ethan blink. Who the hell carries this much physical money anymore? One card equals 3 grand, Markham called out. Any partial payouts, I'll cover in cash. Got extra cards? I'll buy M. The crowd hesitated. 3 grand per card was fair. The tension loosened slightly. More bets began trickling toward the mystery player. Then the match began. With calm precision, both players opened their eyes. The tension between them was electric, two minds switching into high gear. Without a word, they reached for their stones. The sound was soft, almost reverent, as Bobby placed his first move. A moment later, the mystery player followed, equally calm, equally focused. The match had begun, but to those watching, it felt more like the start of a ritual. Markham slammed a giant metal lid over the betting pool. No more bets. Let's see some magic. At first, Bobby dominated. His moves were surgical, each stone cut off another possibility, carving out the board like a predator hemming in its prey. The crowd buzzed. Bobby's backers beamed. The underdog bettors started sweating. Markham looked tense, but Ethan caught a flash of something in his eyes. This guy's up to something. If Bobby won, Markham would owe a fortune. If the underdog pulled it off, the insane 10 minutes and 0.1 second odds meant the house would barely scrape by. Then it happened, the mystery player snapped into focus. His hands became a blur, stone after stone clicking into place like a machine gun. The board shifted. The tide turned. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Bobby's smirk disappeared. He leaned in, eyes locked, as his opponent dismantled the lead stone by stone. Move. Countermove. A death spiral of strategy. And finally, click. The mystery player placed the last piece. Bobby stood, his chair screeching back. He stared at the board, jaw tight, then extended a hand. A draw. The crowd exploded. Draw. House wins. Markham bellowed, dancing on the table like a man possessed. All bets voided. Thank you for playing, you beautiful suckers. Chapter 258, The Long Con. Markham let out a roar of laughter before whipping off the lid of the table. With a theatrical flourish, he conjured a scrappy cloth pouch out of thin air and swept his arms wide. With a swift scoop, he raked every single betting card on the table straight into the bag. This time, he'd hit the jackpot. His grin was so wide it nearly split his face in two, while the people who had wagered on him stood there looking like they'd just attended their own funerals. Pale as paper, some were even groaning out of sheer frustration. What the hell just happened? A single match dragged on for over 2 hours? They'd stood around the whole time just watching, doing nothing useful. And in the end, they still lost. None of them had even realized how much time had passed. Every eye had been locked on that board, captivated by the ruthless elegance of every move. Not one person had broken free of the spell. Ethan and Evelyn walked over to where Markham was still shoving cards into his bag like a man possessed. The two of them just stared. Markham looked up, flashing a toothy grin. What did I tell you? We're easily landing top 50 this round, huh? With that mountain of cards, even Ethan was speechless. He could only mutter inwardly, hell, with this haul, first place wouldn't be a stretch out. Boom. A burst of confetti cannon fire rang out, officially marking the end of the academic duel. Without waiting, Markham grabbed Ethan and Evelyn, dragging them toward a hidden corner by the side gate of the compound. Rounding the bend, Ethan spotted 2 figures already waiting in the shadows. He recognized them instantly. They were the 2 players who had been locked in battle over the board just moments ago, Bobby and the nameless player. The pair were chatting casually, grinning like idiots. But what happened next nearly knocked Ethan off his feet. That proud, arrogant Bobby, the one who'd eliminated a guy earlier just for disrespecting the game, was now rubbing his hands together like a lackey, practically beaming at Markham. Boss, Bobby said, grinning, how'd we do? That performance was top tier, right? Next to him, the icy demeanor of the unnamed player had vanished. Now he stood there hunched and grinning like a sycophant. Boss, that dream state illusion match we ran, pretty convincing, yeah? Markham chuckled darkly and gave a slow nod. Oh, it was fantastic. Had the whole crowd hypnotized. Over 2 hours gone in a blink. He paused, then added with a smirk, but your acting was a bit stiff. Especially you, Bobby. Taking the guy out was fine, but that line you added, disrespect the game and you die? Come on. Too cheesy. Hearing that, the unnamed player straightened up with new energy. See? Told you. I said it was too much. You shouldn't have added that line after taking me out. Bobby scratched the back of his head sheepishly. Gone was the cold, aloof master. What stood there now was just a dopey-looking guy with zero pride. Ethan finally understood. So that guy who died earlier? That had just been a setup. The one who died was the same guy now grinning like an idiot. All right, Markham said, waving them in closer. Let me do introductions. That's Bobby and Rook. And this here is big bro Ethan. He's the one funding our breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He gestured to Evelyn, hesitating. And she's Evelyn, Ethan filled in. Big bro. Ma'am. The two said in unison, bowing in sync like well-trained minions. Ethan was stunned. He quickly pulled the two goons upright and waved them off. She's my friend, he explained, motioning toward Evelyn. So quit with the ma'am stuff before she throws hands. Evelyn huffed and raised her fist in warning. The two guys shrank back immediately. Come on, she said. Let's hit the front gate, check the rankings, then share up the loot. At the board, the current first-place player had managed to collect a grand total of 32 cards. The group exchanged glances. That's it? Nearly half the onlookers in the chess zone had ended up betting at their table. Now Markham's bag was bursting with over 700 cards. And that was after accounting for the fact that the chess zone was the least crowded section. If this stunt had gone down in any other zone, the haul might have doubled. The problem was time. Each round had a strict 3-hour cap. If you matched with a worthy opponent, a single game could stretch for ages. But usually it never came to that. Most matches wrapped up quick. After a few moves, both players could already size each other up. Rather than wasting time, someone would concede or call a judge. It wasn't an official rule, but any match dragging over 10 minutes would get a referee's intervention who'd then evaluate based on board dynamics and call it. So everyone went all in with their best openings, playing speed chess. If you didn't make a move within 3 seconds, automatic loss. Except their match, well, their ref got pulled into the illusion Markham's team had crafted, dream state array and all. By the time 2 hours had flown by, the guy still hadn't called time. When they finally reached the front gate, they spotted Ryan and Leroy hovering there, both wearing matching looks of disappointment. They were clearly waiting on Ethan and the others. Markham strolled up like he owned the place and threw an arm around Ryan. Yo, bro, how'd it go? Top 50. Top 50 my ass. Don't get me started. Ryan sighed. We were at the music zone. Just killing time, scoping out some pretty girls. Then this guy started a betting table. He trailed off, shaking his head. Markham blinked. Ethan looked over with a weird expression. Wait. You guys got wiped. Wiped? Leroy scoffed. We barely placed a bet and the guy running the odds got busted. Some judge just walked up and bam, palm to the chest, dude died on the spot. Every single betting card got confiscated. They even made an announcement. Anyone caught opening unauthorized bets gets executed on the spot. Ethan turned to look at Markham. Markham just shrugged, completely unfazed. Someone had apparently copied Markham's little scheme in the music zone and gotten killed for it. Bro, Markham said with a sheepish grin, you can't say the money wasn't well spent. I've got overhead to cover. Ethan just nodded, speechless. His assessment of Markham quietly ticked up another notch. Seeing Ryan and Leroy standing there, heads low, Markham clapped them both on the back. Don't worry, Ethan's treating today. You're both making the top 50, guaranteed. Once the match sessions wrapped up, everyone lined up to submit their cards and await final rankings. Even the player in first place had only racked up a few dozen. Markham handed the pouch to Ethan. With a flick of his wrist, Ethan passed out 100 cards to each of the crew. The rest? He kept for himself. When they reached the front gate and submitted their cards, their group of 7 immediately drew the attention of the stats officers. But none of them said a word. A little while later, everyone gathered back at the arena. The head of the Langford family took the finalized rankings from the judges and stepped onto the platform. Without preamble, he began announcing the top 50 contestants. For the top 50 in the tournament of strategy, beginning with number 50. He read from bottom to top. Number 12, Dominic Zane, with 47 cards. A soft murmur rippled through the crowd. 47 cards? That's only 12th place? The announcer froze for a second, flipping to the last page and staring at the top name. His eyes widened. Number 11. Brian, with 51 cards. At that, both Dominic and Brian stood up stunned. Brian even shouted, that's impossible. No way. No way he wasn't in the top 10. Chapter 259, Bloodline Politics. Brian stood there, face twisted in disbelief and frustration. He opened his mouth, probably about to argue. Shut it. Snapped the old man beside him, shooting him a glare sharp enough to slice through steel. Haven't embarrassed yourself enough already? For those who devote themselves to the game, self-discipline and control come first. That temper of yours, when we return, you're to enter closure for 3 years. One impulsive outburst, just one, and now he was slapped with 3 years of isolation. Blackwell family didn't mess around with family discipline. Bobby sat frozen in his chair, lip twitching, struggling not to laugh. The one being punished? That was his older brother. The same guy who used to bully him as a kid. But in the realm of strategy? Bobby was on a whole different level. That said, Bobby's mother wasn't from the main bloodline. She'd been a chambermaid in the Blackwell household, technically given a name later, but still treated like a servant. Because of that, even with Bobby's rare talent, he'd always been pushed down, suppressed. His goal now? Make money. Enough to buy his mom out of that damned hidden territory the Blackwells called home. He was lost in thought when the Silverwood patriarch continued reading out names. 10th place, Gregory Hargrove, total cards. 9th place, Sylvia Wynne. 8th place, Kiara Quinn. Second place, Bobby, Markham, Rook, Evelyn, Ryan, Leroy, total cards, 100. Boom. The crowd erupted. No third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh. Tied for second, 6 people? Each with 100 cards? The entire match lasted 3 hours. That's 180 minutes total. To rack up 100 cards in that time, each person would need to earn one every 2 minutes. Even producing one card took longer than that. That's not playing the game, that's robbing it. Of course, people from the strategy zone knew exactly what had happened. But no one dared speak a word. They'd heard about what went down in other zones. Someone tried to run a betting table and got smacked to death right there on the spot. Yet in the strategy zone, nothing. No interference. No punishment. If that wasn't a sign of powerful backing, nothing was. No one was dumb enough to cross that fat bastard now. A few reckless people had tried reporting it to their family elders. But those reports got buried fast. Word got around that the guy's surname was Whitmore. After that, everyone clammed up. It wasn't hard to understand why. Unlike other noble families, the Whitmore line only produced one male heir per generation. And the women? Always born as twins and trained. Whitmore men didn't inherit the crafting legacy. That fell to the women, who were taught the conduit forging arts. But that didn't mean the men were pushovers. Every Whitmore male was rumored born with the awakened blood of a dragon. When they used a conduit to summon a dragon, their beast was stronger, more brutal than any the women could call. But here's the real problem. Whitmore women ran the house. And they were terrifying. If you so much as touched a Whitmore man, it didn't matter if you were right or wrong. Retaliation would come. Not once. Not twice. Every single woman in the family, from youngest niece to even a grandma, would take turns showing up to ruin your week. And if you tried talking your way out of it, good luck. They didn't play fair, didn't play by rules, and were stronger than hell. Sure, the dragons they summoned weren't as savage as their brothers. But nobody in their right mind would pick a fight with a Whitmore woman. But the real reason was control. Because they were the creators, Whitmore women had an easier time managing their summoned beasts. Think of it this way, one was a mindless puppet, the other was advanced AI. So yeah. In the supernatural world, there was one golden rule: mess with anyone, but never mess with the Whitmores. Or else. Prepare for harassment that doesn't end when you die. They dig up your grave just to whip your corpse, then whip it again and again. Which was why no one from the strategy zone dared speak up. The rest of the tournament zones had no clue what went down. This isn't fair. They must have rigged it. Yeah, totally rigged. Voices started rising in protest. The Langford patriarch heard the growing unrest and stepped forward, voice deep and cold. If you suspect foul play, submit a report. But if you spread baseless accusations and slander the noble eight. He let out a slow, biting laugh. That was all he needed to say. The loudmouths instantly clammed up. A second of thought and they all turned pale. Their family members dragged them back before they could make bigger fools of themselves. With order restored, the patriarch swept his eyes across the crowd. Anyone else want to object? Silence. Good. Then I now declare the winner of this year's academic duel. Ethan. Total cards, 188. Ethan? Who the hell is that? Never heard of him. 188? That's jackpot numbers. The crowd exploded with whispers. This round felt different from all the rest. In previous years, the refined families always claimed the top 4. Now this Ethan guy had shoved his way to the top and nobody knew if it was skill or some shady backdoor trick. Among the 4 refined families, only one name placed: Bobby from Blackwell family. He was tied for second. In the Blackwell family's corner, Bobby kept a straight face, but inside, he was beaming. The elder who led their group this year? Brian's grandfather. Which also made him his grandfather. The guy had always been cold to Bobby thanks to his mother's status, but now, his gaze kept flicking over, unreadable. The truth was, in the entire history of the academic duel, the Blackwell family never ranked above 4th. Their combat placement was even worse, dead last in the Noble 8. This time, Bobby's 100-card finish crushed the other 3 refined families. The 4 warrior families weren't even in the conversation. No one knew how he pulled it off, but results were results. Second place was still second. And among the Noble 8, this time, it meant first. That old man may not have said it out loud, but pride was practically seeping from his pores. Down below, the crowd was still buzzing. Up above, over at the Silverwood family's booth, Lachlan Silverwood's face was red with fury. He turned to Liam's aunt, voice low and sharp. That Ethan kid, he's the one always hanging around Lila, right? How the hell did he get in here? Liam's aunt, Luna, looked rattled too. She leaned in and whispered back, Uncle Lachlan, I don't know. I've been focused on that matter. I didn't pay attention to the attendee list. Humph. Lachlan looked pissed, but when he remembered how much he still needed her help, he let out a sigh and softened. How's it going? It's progressing. There was a hiccup this morning, but I've got it handled. A hiccup? His brow twitched. Luna dabbed her forehead, trying not to look nervous. A small one. I'm taking care of it. He stared at her for a moment, then finally gave a curt nod. Turning toward Liam, his voice was icy. Liam. What's the status on Lila? Still investigating, Liam replied flatly, his tone cold as frost. Chapter 260, Bad Ideas. When the Langford patriarch finished reading out the results. Ethan, still standing casually in the crowd, shrugged. TCH. Still short. Would have been hilarious if I got 1888. Evelyn blinked. Why 1888? Ethan shrugged. Because that's how many kids will be calling me daddy. What? Ryan and Leroy froze. Ethan grinned. Okay, bad joke. Don't look at me like that. This was new. In all the time they'd known him, they'd never heard Ethan crack a joke before. Clearly, he was in a good mood today. Well, no surprise. After all, he was about to see Lila again. Up on stage, the Langford patriarch continued, voice carrying over the crowd. Today's academic duel is officially concluded. Tomorrow morning at 8, the combat trials will begin. To those of you ranked in the top 50, meet back here at 6 this evening. A representative will escort you to the Silverwood banquet. Miss Silverwood herself will also be attending. As he said this, he gave a subtle smile, full of unspoken meaning. And just like that, the day's events were wrapped. Members of the Noble Eight began filing out, one family at a time. The rest of the contestants, outsiders mostly, were buzzing with excitement. Especially the guys. They were already gossiping about the Silverwood heiress. I heard she's an absolute goddess. Yeah, same. They say she's the kind of beauty that ruins kingdoms. Look, I know I've got no shot at first place, but if I can just see her? That's enough eye candy to last a year. Even Markham couldn't hold back his enthusiasm. He leaned toward Ethan and the others with a conspiratorial smirk. Word is, the Silverwood girl's getting hitched soon. Damn, married women are exactly my type, ow. Son of a. He yelped as Ryan jabbed a finger into his ribs. Humph. Disgusting, Evelyn muttered, shooting him a glare of pure disdain. Markham howled, clutching his side like he'd been stabbed. Evelyn tried to hold it in but couldn't help laughing. Hee hee. Ethan, someone's already eyeing your future wife. Markham perked right up, completely forgetting the pain. He twisted around to look at Ethan, face full of mock innocence. Ethan, meanwhile, gave him a look so dark it could dim daylight. Wait, you. Markham began, but trailed off. Too many people nearby. Ryan leaned in, clapped Markham on the shoulder, and whispered something in his ear. Markham's expression shifted, first surprise, then mischief, then full-blown delight. Grabbing Ethan's arm, he grinned. Bro, if something that fun is going down, you have to bring me along. Ethan blinked, unsure how to respond. In the end, he just gave a quiet nod. Hell yeah, Markham said, rubbing his hands together. This kind of wild plan? I'm dragging Bobby and Rook in too. They're gonna love it. Ethan's expression twitched. The plan was dangerous, but this guy was far too unhinged. Only the privileged brats of elite families could treat something like this as a game. Anyone else would be running the opposite direction by now. They were about to mess with not one but two major families. The fallout could be catastrophic. And these guys thought it sounded fun. And Markham really believed Bobby and Rook would want in? Ethan's gut tightened. He glanced at Ryan. Probably shouldn't have told him anything. The more people knew, the higher the risk. His original idea had been simple, grab Lila and slip away quietly. But with this crew? That was turning into a full-blown declaration of war against the Silverwoods. This is getting out of hand. Then a familiar voice echoed in his mind. Oh? Getting cold feet already? Maybe I misjudged you after all. If you're this timid, how do you plan to protect anyone? The enemies you'll face in the future won't be anything like a bunch of noble families. It was Morzin. First time he'd spoken up in a while, and of course, it had to be now. Ethan's chest tightened. He replied to Morzin in his mind, flat and sharp, easy for you to talk. You're not the one with a target on his back. I don't know what those future enemies look like, but right now, the Silverwoods could crush me with a sneeze. So unless you're offering to clean up the fallout when the sky burns, maybe don't act like my moral compass. It's not even that I look down on you, no, wait, I do look down on you. Afraid of getting caught, afraid of this and that, with that tiny coward heart of yours, you still have the nerve to lecture me? You only show up to judge. Not to help. You want to talk shame? Start by looking in a mirror. Go smack yourself in the face, see if it knocks some shame into you. Ethan had been in a decent mood earlier. But Morzin? The guy was silent for centuries, ignores him when he calls, and then just pops in whenever he feels like it? Like Ethan's brain was his personal taxi service? Poof in. Poof out. Ethan had been holding that irritation in for a while now. Today, he finally let it all out. He barely stopped himself from spitting in Morzin's imaginary face. TCH, Morzin grunted. Then vanished. Ethan didn't even care. He rejoined the others and started heading back with Ryan and the rest, just in time to spot Bobby and Rook waiting for them. Technically, those two had lodgings over in the elite quarter, the area reserved for the nobility, the kids with real names and bloodlines. Ethan and his group? They lived in the commons. No affiliations. No big family. Just a bunch of wandering nobodies. To put it bluntly, they were the bottom of the barrel. But here Bobby and Rook were, standing at the entrance. And to everyone's surprise, they said they wanted to move in with Ethan's group. Turned out Rook had a lot in common with Bobby. Both of them were on the outs with their families. As for Markham, well, yeah, the Whitmores protected their own, but their gender bias was ridiculous. He got beat up almost daily at home. That's what drove him to run away, start trouble everywhere, make a name for himself. His family never even came looking. But when he caused a mess, someone always cleaned it up. Ethan glanced at Markham, half in awe. Man's got it made. Then he looked at himself. Yeah, life's not fair. Markham was the kind of guy who could wreck a house and still get hugged when he came home. Ethan? Just a forgotten orphan. He smiled bitterly and shook his head, falling into step with the others as they walked back. What he didn't know was that Morzin, after getting chewed out, was now sitting cross-legged deep in the heart of chaos. Beside him sat a wine gourd, its scent thick in the air. The cap was off, letting that fragrant aroma drift out. Normally, even the tiniest whiff was enough to make him guard it like treasure. But now? Morzin just stared blankly, unmoving. After Ethan's rant, even the wine had lost its flavor. What he was thinking, no one knew. After a long silence, he sighed, picked up the gourd, raised it halfway to his lips, then paused. Eventually, he sealed the gourd again and hooked it back on his belt. Back inside the Silverwood hidden territory, the little courtyard where Ethan and the others lived had gotten louder with the addition of 3 new roommates. Markham rummaged through his bottomless pouch and pulled out a whole barbecue setup. Is that even allowed? Bobby looked nervous. He knew full well over in the Blackwell hidden territory using gear like that was strictly banned. Because pollution. The hidden territories were powered by a purification magic which filtered air from the outside world before feeding it inside. Lighting fires were a huge no. Don't be such a coward. Markham said it like it was nothing and got to work. Moments later, smoke was already rising from their little yard. You could see it from a mile away. Even Ethan started to sweat. You think someone's gonna come boot us out? Markham really was a handful. No wonder he got beat up all the time at home. With that attitude, who wouldn't want to smack him? Chapter 261, just as expected. Sure enough, a group came storming up to Ethan's front gate. Bang! The courtyard gate flew open with a violent kick. Who the hell started a fire in the Silverwood estate? You out of your mind? With a loud crack, the wooden door split clean in half. Ethan's expression darkened. Sure, maybe we weren't totally in the right here, but that tone? What, was this guy planning to kill us or something? But before he could even finish his sentence, his face twisted like he'd just sucked on a lemon. Then he forced a smile so painfully fake it almost hurt to look at. And Mr. Markham? It's you. Take your time, by all means, carry on. He spun around and bolted. Behind him, one of the others muttered, Lars, what the hell? If you don't want to lead the team, just hand it over, I'll take it. Screw Markham or whoever, today I'm calling myself his grandpa. The rest of them, watching Lars's pathetic retreat, exchanged looks of open contempt. Lars paused mid-step and turned back to flash a big thumbs up. Be my guest. I'll head back to the disciplinary wing to collect my penalty slip. Their entire exchange drifted into the courtyard, every word clear as day. Ethan's worldview took yet another hard hit. The others just stood there, gaping at Markham. Except for Bobby and Rook. They didn't look surprised at all. If anything, they seemed mildly concerned. Larsy. Just as the guy was about to make his escape, Markham's voice cut through the air like a thunderclap. Lars froze. Shivered. Then slowly turned around. Mommy, and Mr. Markham. P50 Evelyn, who'd been standing by the grill watching the whole scene unfold, happened to be sipping water. At that exact moment, she spat it out. Markham, who just turned slightly toward the gate to glare, took the full blast to the side of his face. And she wasn't the only one who sprayed. Nor was Markham the only target. Rook got it the worst. He was laughing so hard his abs nearly gave out. Clutching his stomach, he leaned against the table, half crying, half dying. Oh my god. This is killing me. Markham, since when did you have a son? And when exactly did you visit Thailand, huh? That's news to me. Bobby was cackling beside him, practically choking. He added, don't joke. Even if you did go to Thailand, they'd have cut it off. Even if you slapped on some artificial baby maker, it still wouldn't work. He didn't even get to finish before. Why not? A voice cut in. The whole yard fell silent. Because the one who asked was the only girl present. Evelyn blinked, eyes wide with curiosity, face dead serious like she was asking a professor about cell mitosis. Bobby's face turned beet red. He stammered. Because male chromosomes are 46XY and females have 46XX. Even with surgery, you can't change the core. And current tech can't grow real reproductive organs from scratch. Live transplants are illegal. He actually started explaining. Like, seriously? Evelyn nodded thoughtfully. I'll fix that someday. One day you guys are gonna be the ones giving birth. She grabbed a handful of sunflower seeds and strolled off to snack in peace. Every man in the yard shuddered involuntarily. Bobby and Rook just stared after her, dumbfounded. What the hell was that supposed to mean? They were practically thinking the same thing. My sister's a med student, Ryan offered, seeing the blank looks on their faces. Oh. Yeah, better make damn sure her dream never comes true. That thought hit both of them at the same time. Back in the yard, Lars stood frozen, drenched in sweat. He had no clue what Markham wanted now. And he just watched Markham take a faceful of water thanks to his own stupid mouth. If Markham decided to take that rage out on him. Just as panic hit its peak, Markham calmly wiped his face with a sleeve. I'm out of greens. Go grab me something grillable, veggies, whatever. Lars blinked. Then broke into the fakest, most relieved grin imaginable. On it, sir? Right away. He vanished so fast, he practically left a dust trail behind him. As he ran, Lars let out a long, shaky sigh. Thank God that didn't go south. If this had ended like last time. That night, he'd been yanked clean out of the hidden territory in his sleep, no noise, no struggle, no clue how they even got in. After the beating of a lifetime, he'd been stripped, tied up, and strung like laundry from a streetlight in the real world. And yeah, embarrassing but survivable. What really haunted him was what came next. Those damn women. They'd slathered him in honey. Then dumped a pile of dead bees on top, just for good measure. At least, thank whatever gods existed, they'd had some shred of mercy. That particular region of his anatomy had been neatly wrapped in cling film. Without that, well, Lars might have had to start planning a medical trip to Bangkok. Behind him, the rest of the enforcement squad watched his retreat with thinly veiled contempt. Well, aside from a few of his closer buddies. After exchanging quick glances, they dropped out of formation and jogged after him. The one who'd been eyeing Lars's spot the whole time? That was his second-in-command, Elias. Elias had been gunning for the captain role for months. And now? Lars had just chickened out in front of outsiders. Perfect. All Elias had to do was step up, lay down the law, report the win, and Lars would look like a joke. Promotion, locked in. With that smug thought, Elias marched into the courtyard. All of you. He didn't finish. Markham flicked his wrist and tossed something small, a shiny 5-pointed star. The rest of the group stood up, eyes sharpening. A fight was about to kick off. And then, smack. A sharp, echoing slap cracked through the air. Everyone blinked, stunned. Had they imagined that? But no, there stood Elias, his cheek already ballooning, dazed and silent. Woo. He slurred. He tried to say who. But with his face swelling like a grapefruit, it came out a mess. He looked around wildly, everyone was frozen. He glanced at the teammates next to him. They all looked equally stunned and slowly shook their heads. Wassa, yo jushtri ahashmi agaya. Whoever you are, try that crap again, he tried to say. But judging by the squinty eyes and tongue bite, he'd started speaking right as the slap landed. Smack. Another slap, faster, harder, sharper. Everyone's eyes locked forward. Still no sign of who'd done it. No blur. No shadow. Nothing. But one thing was now crystal clear. Someone terrifying was right there among them. Chapter 262, Elias's Reckoning. Elias's face was a sight. Both cheeks were swollen. Perfectly symmetrical, too, like a small pumpkin. His skin, though, looked much smoother. It even had an oily sheen, sunlight glinted right off it. MMPCH. Elias couldn't form a clear word. You couldn't make out a thing he was trying to say, not even by guessing the sounds. Who dares hit me and then run? Members of Silverwood enforcers drew their weapons. Attacking Silverwood enforcers within Silverwood hidden territory? One of them snarled. Got a death wish? Another added. Yeah. Don't run if you've got the guts. They yelled, scanning their surroundings, wary. All right. Someone actually answered. That voice. Everyone whipped their heads toward Ethan. When their eyes landed on him, Ethan was squatting, munching on a handful of edamame. A thought struck them. That liquid on Elias's face earlier, and now looking at Ethan. Wasn't that the juice from boiled edamame? Did Ethan do it? While they were still reeling, wondering if Ethan was indeed the culprit, he finished the last edamame in his hand. Then he moved silently, vanishing before their eyes. All they saw was an empty edamame pod drifting slowly to the ground. Slap, slap, slap. Arg. Ah. A series of crisp sounds, mixed with screams, erupted from near the main entrance. Markham and the others spun around. Ethan's figure weaved through the group of enforcers. A blur of afterimages. The men fought back hard, but they couldn't dodge Ethan's hands. Every time he threw a slap, no matter how they tried to evade, it landed squarely on the face of his chosen target. It was as if his arms could bend. Those tricky angles were impossible to defend against. Holy crap. Markham's eyes were wide. Ethan, man, that's some god-tier skill. Even Ryan and Leroy looked stunned. It wasn't like they hadn't seen Ethan fight before. But his speed, it wasn't this fast back then, was it? How long had it been? His speed had reached such a terrifying level. Bobby and Rook were shocked too, but not by Ethan's power. They were shocked that Ethan dared to attack Silverwood enforcers. Has he lost his mind, or what? If Markham had started throwing punches, they'd have thought it was par for the course. That guy was a magnet for trouble. And not just any trouble, the kind that blew up spectacularly. But Ethan? What gave him the nerve to attack the enforcers in their own stronghold? They didn't know. They didn't know Ethan was riled up by what Morzan had suddenly appeared and said. That and Morzan had generally soured his mood. Then, hearing about Markham's situation, he thought about himself. Growing up in an orphanage, never knowing his parents. No one had ever really looked out for him his whole life. It had shaped his current personality, always cautious, always holding back a bit, weighing the pros and cons before acting. It seemed like Ethereal was the only place he could truly be himself. There, he could kill who he wanted, do whatever he pleased. Originally, when Markham and his crew had arrived, everyone was being boisterous. Only Ethan, watching them, felt like he couldn't quite fit in. The insecurity of an orphan was etched deep in his heart. But when these guys kicked down the gate, the fury suppressed deep inside him suddenly erupted. Before, Morzan would always pop up out of nowhere, telling him he was being too cocky, that he'd be cocky to his own doom. This time, Morzan had popped up again, calling him timid and afraid, saying he wouldn't be able to protect anyone. Damn it, you've had your say on both sides of the coin. Ethan fumed internally. Since you say I'm timid and afraid of trouble, I'll show you just how wild I can be. You regress me and then you tell me not to be afraid of trouble. So you wouldn't let me die easily, right? Ethan mulled over this connection. And so, this time he struck without hesitation. He unleashed his legendary face slapper technique, something he hadn't used in a long, long time. It was the only kind of attack that wouldn't compromise his speed. He discovered that when he ramped up his speed, using other skill-based attacks would cause him to momentarily falter. But slapping people around, oh, he loved that far too much. A thoroughly satisfying beatdown. Or rather, it was a completely one-sided thrashing. To even be a member of Silverwood Enforcers, the minimum requirement was the prenatal energy stage. In the outside world, these were energy wielders, 1 in 10,000. Any one of them taken outside would be considered a master. Yet, faced with Ethan's face slapper technique, they were utterly defenseless. Ethan vented all his pent-up emotions, all his fury. It was actually a good thing this group were all energy wielders. Otherwise, even without using a skill, just with his raw strength, their heads would have been slapped clean off. And Elias, he received Ethan's special attention. Ethan also conveniently blocked the doorway. If anyone tried to bolt, he'd flash in front of them. What greeted them would be a swift 1-2 of slaps to both cheeks. Markham and the others winced, a flicker of sympathy in their eyes. Arg! Help me. Don't hit my face. Ah! Please, I'm begging you, stop hitting me. A group of formerly handsome men, now with faces swollen like prize-winning pumpkins, forgot this was Silverwood territory, forgot they were enforcers. They even forgot how they'd been sneering at their captain, Lars, just moments before. Only 2 women from the team managed to scramble out the main gate. They stared back in panic, unsure what to do. The pumpkin-headed men inside the courtyard desperately charged the gateway, trying to escape. But with their faces so swollen their eyes were squeezed into slits they couldn't see clearly, blundering about like headless chickens. While Ethan was giving Elias his undivided attention, a few who'd lost their bearings tried to jump the wall. But just as they leaped, a yellow light and a chess piece struck them simultaneously. They were yanked right back down. Bobby and Ryan paused, then looked at each other and grinned, a sense of kindred spirits found too late. Those 2 sly dogs at some point had set up 2 impediment wards on the courtyard walls, preventing these guys from escaping over them. The Silverwood crew, seeing they couldn't jump the wall either, started running around in chaos. One of them, sporting a thoroughly pummeled face, made a beeline for Markham. He was about to crash into Markham's grill. Don't come over here. My skewers are almost done. If you knock this over, I'll end you. Markham threatened. Whether the guy didn't hear clearly, or if his ears were ringing too much from Ethan's slaps, he completely ignored Markham's warning and charged straight ahead. Get lost. Thwack. Arg. Markham shot out a kick. It landed squarely on the man's stomach. He went flying with such force and speed that even the 2 impediment wards flashing on the wall failed to intercept him. Chapter 263, kicked from the courtyard. That man, sent flying from the courtyard by Markham, crashed hard onto the flagstones outside. A look of utter relief spread across his face before his head lolled to the side and he passed out cold. The remaining men abruptly stopped running. They all turned to stare at Markham. Their expressions were like a pack of wolves spotting a lone, delectable lamb. Their gazes sent a shiver down Markham's spine. What the hell? What do you guys want? Their actions spoke louder than words. Eyes squeezed shut, they charged him. Don't you come near me. Thump, thump, thump. Markham's legs were a blur of kicks, sending one bruised goon after another flying. Several of them, as they sailed over the wall, actually managed what they probably thought were sincere smiles at Markham. They even mumbled, slurring badly, "Thanks, Marshes." Thanks, Markham. Ha! Markham was speechless. These guys had been so thoroughly thrashed by Ethan that all the fight had been knocked out of them. Running wasn't an option. So, they decided to use him as a human catapult, taking advantage of his kicks to make their escape. What kind of messed up situation was this? All those times he'd been showing off, stirring up trouble. How come he'd never thought of such a method? An attack that seemed to do no real harm, but its propulsive force was incredible? Though, Ethan's control over his strength, it seemed to have reached a whole new level of mastery. When he'd first started, a single slap would leave a face red and swollen. Now, each slap could send Elias spinning like a top without so much as a mark on his skin. Otherwise, looking at that swollen head of his, you'd think sticking a needle in it would make it pop like a balloon. Just as Markham kicked the last man out, Ethan flickered, appearing right beside him. Markham, out of habit, lashed out with a kick. Ethan had had his fill of fighting and was about to call it a day. He'd seen the barbecues were ready and just wanted to grab one. Ever since the Divine Scroll contest had begun in Ethereal, the game hadn't entered a rest period. He'd been power leveling like crazy and hadn't logged off to rest at all, let alone eat anything decent. Now, the aroma of lamb barbecues had his stomach rumbling insistently. He hadn't expected that. Just as he steadied himself and reached for a handful of skewers, Markham, on autopilot, assumed it was one of Silverwood family's men daring to touch his precious barbecues and aimed a kick straight at him. Damn it! This kick from Markham was entirely different from the previous ones. The tip of his foot glowed with a faint yellow aura. It even took on the shape of a draconic head. Ethan was inwardly shocked. What's going on? I just want a barbecue, is it that serious? He simultaneously shot out a kick of his own. Bear form, heavy strike. Empowered. Initially, he was just activating the skill. But the moment his foot made contact with the other's draconic aura, a powerful, dreamlike energy shredded his shoe to pieces. So, without missing a beat, he fused his energy with the skill. Boom. A deafening crash. Whoosh. A portly figure sailed over the courtyard wall. Ow wow. A pained yelp echoed from outside. Everyone stared, dumbfounded. Ethan was stunned too. His empowered heavy strike in bear form, even though he'd pulled back about half his strength upon contact with Markham, its destructive power was still nothing to scoff at. He hadn't expected Markham to just go flying. Listening to that booming yelp though, it sounded like he wasn't seriously hurt at all. This Markham, who seemed a bit dense, was truly something else. Bobby and Rook were in shock. They knew Markham too well. The moment they saw that draconic aura flare from his foot, they knew he'd used at least 80% of his power. They never imagined that in a direct clash, Markham would be sent flying by Ethan's kick. And Ethan, in the split second of their collision, had even managed to grab the nearby grill, hefted it up, and with that ghost-like speed of his, darted out of the shockwave's radius, bringing out a full grill of perfectly cooked lamb barbecues completely unscathed. They exchanged a look, seeing the astonishment in each other's eyes. This Ethan, was he really just an unaffiliated fighter? Markham, with his incredibly tough physique, was no match for him. But they wondered, had Ethan used his full strength in that last exchange? Then again, if he had used his full strength, how could he have possibly grabbed the grill and dashed out in such a short time? If so, that was terrifying. Just then, Markham reappeared at the gateway, limping slightly. When he looked up at Ethan, he grinned. "Ethan, buddy, you. If you wanted a barbecue, you should have just said so. You scared the daylights out of me. Good thing I pulled my kick fast enough, or your skinny frame would be toast, right?" As Markham spoke, he winked exaggeratedly at Ethan. "Ha!" The others looked back and forth between them, puzzled. The barbecue Ethan had just lifted to his mouth froze midair. But then he chuckled. Yeah, good thing Markham pulled back in time. He even got caught in his own backlash. I was just starving, you know? Afraid he'd eat them all. As he said this, he pointed at Ryan. Me? Ryan wanted to eat, sure, but he hadn't planned on grabbing one just then. Numerous questions flooded everyone's heads. Only Markham shot Ethan a knowing look, raising an eyebrow. Ethan returned a slight smile. This Markham, he really cared about his image. Telling barefaced lies in broad daylight just to save face. Ethan, on the other hand, didn't mind at all and simply did him a favor. The Silverwood family enforcement team had long since vanished while all this was going on. A few people quickly tidied up the courtyard. Markham, as head chef, kept plying Ethan with food. No one said anything, but they all knew this was just the beginning. Soon, the Silverwood family would surely be in an uproar. Ethan and Markham, the two main culprits, one grilling, one eating. Both acted completely unconcerned, as if nothing had happened. Bobby and Rook didn't show much reaction either. The three Chase siblings, however, were different. They were fugitives seeking refuge in the first place. Now they provoked the Silverwood family, a colossal power. Although they weren't the instigators, having entered the hidden territory with Ethan, if the Silverwood family decided to pursue the matter, none of them would escape. Ethan naturally saw their worry. While chatting with Markham, he said, "Markham, when the Silverwood family comes looking for trouble, protect these three. You have to get them out of here. Preferably find them a safe place to stay." Markham paused, glanced at the three Chase siblings, then looked back at Ethan with a curious expression. Finally, he nodded. "Don't worry, leave it to me." "Thanks." Ethan grinned. Then he dug into the barbecues with gusto. Markham really had the makings of a great chef. Ethan ate until his mouth was slick with grease. Unnoticed by anyone, Markham kept stealing glances at Ethan. It was hard to tell what he was thinking, but occasionally his gaze would also drift to the Chase siblings. During this time, Lars came by once, bringing some vegetable spring rolls, a fruit platter, and other food items. Moreover, everything was already skewered and ready for the grill. Markham praised him generously. As Lars was about to leave, Ethan asked him if there had been any movements from the Silverwood family. Lars, surprisingly, didn't know. He said he'd been busy in the kitchen the whole time. Ethan had to let it go. As Lars left, he even said that with Boss Markham around, they had nothing to worry about. It seemed he genuinely had no idea what had transpired there. If you want access to fast updates or the full novel in high-quality audio, contact me now and buy. I offer over 300 complete audiobooks from Pocket FM, Webnovel, Audible, and more. No locked episodes, no subscriptions. Just one-time payment via PayPal or Ko-fi. Message me directly on Telegram or WhatsApp, or check out the full list of available novels on Discord. Start listening to your next favorite audiobook today.